The word liminal comes from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold. A liminal space is the time between the what was and the next. It is a place of transition, a season of waiting and not knowing. Liminal space is where all transformation takes place if we learn to wait. Welcome back, dear friends. We're going to continue our visible mending, and whatever you're bringing with you today, hopefully you can listen and watch, work alongside me, and then let some things go. Whatever you've been carrying today or for a while, we'll just share and sit in this space, and then we'll move on with the rest of our day. So it's Wednesday. Monday, I drew the straight lines to continue our work on the sashiko style embroidery work. That's gonna really add some structure and durability to this specific section of the towel, which its threading has come apart, and you saw in another video that I cut that piece away, and I like kind of the shape that it is. And so just as a reminder, I chose to use this style rather than patching because it would be a bigger patch. I wanted to just try a different technique, and this general stitching is going to help reinforce this part. I also made a point as I was stitching over my lines to start a little bit in advance and really kind of anchor some of those stitches or the threading that is around the places where I cut off, just to kind of anchor that and prevent it from further coming apart. Now it may still, but that's just going to give me more reason to go back and sew, right? So it's all good. Before we get started, I have my simple little ironing mat. It's really cute. It's got magnets, so you could, I don't know, I think some people use this on their washer and dryer and just kind of holds in there. I'm up here in my sewing room area, office area, and so I have to protect my wood. So I wanted to show you that, yes, that pen that we used just disappears like magic with heat. That's all it takes is a little heat. My iron's pretty hot, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it off. But I wanted to do that because I thought that it would be a bit distracting to have those lines still. And since I'm going to actually be going the other way, sewing across, I want to be able to see the stitches that I have really clearly. And since it's yellow, that's tricky. Maybe it would have been better to use a darker color, but I really liked that color, and so that's what we're going to do. So it's kind of tricky at determining where to start. And in traditional sashiko embroidery, I know that there's rulers and then there's specific marking and papers and transferring, but I wanted to make this as simple as possible, so it's not going to look quite as beautiful as what others do in the traditional way. And so if you like having things precise, then of course use some templates, use some marking tools, and that's perfectly fine. But what we're going to do is just go across, and we're going to make some little crosses, and then it's going to make it look really quite pretty. And as we talked about yesterday, we're kind of steeping in symbolism and connection and meaning, really. And I talked about this idea of this kind of representing my own liminality in a connection to my past and future, and the space that we just all are in the pandemic, and making progress through it. So not necessarily making life exactly the way it was, but changing it and strengthening it, learning from what we've done and moving forward. So I shared some photos of Liminality and kind of that process, and it's something that connects back to my own studies. I'm going to start here. Well, it's a really long thread. And I never thought I would go as far as getting a doctoral degree, but that's where I am right now. And I'm in a space where I'm not working full time so that I can concentrate on that. And so it provides some time and space to reflect, think about where I've been, where I'm going as I'm in my late 40s and making a big professional change from working with elementary students to working with adults at the college level. And so not only has the pandemic required a lot of flexibility and adaptation just in personal and family life, but also it happened right around the time when I was going to already make a change and left my administration role that I loved, a school that I loved and still love and stay connected with, where all three of my children went. But I wanted to take on this new adventure. So as you can see, as I'm going through here, there are kind of some natural lines, but I'm having to do a good bit of extending, so I'm going to do that. And it's okay, I'll continue to stop and kind of press and pull and transition. And this is not going to be perfect work, but again, this is about the process. And so that's why the concept, the idea of liminality felt like a really good connection for this week. That space where, we're in transition, we're in this process, wherever you are, and it could be something that you're thinking about doing or becoming brave and making a change yourself. But you can use this time to really reflect on where you are and think about your goals. It's also a good time because it's a new year, and lots of people like to use that time for making new goals for the year. And I think that doesn't have to be a new year to do that. There's lots of times when we can, make a change. But it does seem to kind of naturally happen in these transitional periods of a different year. And so think about what some of your goals are. I'm going to switch up to that one. Again, this is not super perfect. Ideally, I could have marked where these little crosses would have gone, and I could have made sure I tried to, as best as I could, line these stitches up so that it would be easy to go across, but it's going to kind of end up being a bit meandering, and I think I'm okay with that. So I'll do this for a little bit, and then whenever I'm finished, I'll show you kind of what my plans are for the last part of it, and then we'll set up what we're going to do for next week. And so this is kind of a practice of just weaving your thread in and out without having to poke, if that's your usual method and you want to try doing a running stitch with this. I can't really go back. I've tried to do the inserting the needle and pulling it up, which I have done, or how I started doing, but now that I've learned how to do this a little bit, it just feels really nice to me. I feel like it is that meditational practice that I've been hoping becomes something that feels positive to you and supports time to have reflection for your day. I'm going to continue working through that. Maybe I'll stop when I get to here, and then I'll cut back and go ahead and finish off camera. But before I finish off that, I want to note that while I love this and I like the yellow colors, and I can see since I've doubled the strand this time that it's going to show up a little bit more, and I think that's going to add more durability to it. Maybe if I need to even scrub there, that'll add a little friction there so I can get some dirt away when I use this towel. But I think I'm seeing a lot of space here now that I have my lines disappeared, or heat disappeared away. So I think I might take another contrasting color, maybe that dark blue, or that's my iron, or maybe the red, or maybe I'll alternate. We'll just see, and then I'll show some pictures of that. So that's what it's going to look like this week. Now this is a simple sashiko pattern, and it's not really even a pattern, it's kind of something that I've kind of adapted here because it's not perfectly lined up and going across. Again, that's okay, because I hope in seeing my imperfection when you're doing this, you don't have to feel like yours needs to be neat as a pen and tidy, especially when this is a bit of a learning process. And if this was something that I really wanted to mend that was going to be more of a showy piece or a garment, I know that I would get out some templates or a ruler and make it a little bit more tidy or orderly. But I thought, since we were talking about liminality and changes and the space between the change and the transition, the transformation is often a bit messy and it doesn't always go as we planned. We can just kind of accept things as they are and enjoy this space and time, either together or in quiet reflection. So I hope you have a lovely weekend. And when we come back next week, I'm going to show you how to do more of a weaving with, here, I'll pause and I'll show you. Is your self-care a little bit more like this? I was thinking about this. It's a whole and it's all jaggedy. And there's been times actually before the pandemic when, my self-care was hanging by a thread and there was a big hole, and I needed to really stop and think about routines and practices that I had in place and what was serving me and what wasn't, and I really needed to get rid of some. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. How to completely reinvent our self-care step by step. And as we do that, we'll talk about how to mend an actual hole where there isn't any fabric for us to sew over. Yes, we could do a patch on here, but we all like choices, so I'll show you a different choice, and it's going to involve weaving and a more traditional set of mending. So I hope you have a lovely weekend. Stay warm if you're in those areas that are in the single digits, and I look forward to spending some time with you, reflecting and letting go of the things that we bring with us. Have a great weekend.